Hey, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, whatever it is. Feels like morning. Hope everybody is doing okay. And you turned in your DBQ assignment. I have been making tests for the last 2 hours, and I'm tired. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put up a picture, and I want you here's what you have to do. Guys, it's a assessment, but I'm just judging to see what you come up with because I'm curious. So I'm gonna put up this picture, and you have one word. You have one word to describe the picture, like what's happening, or something that might define this picture. But you only get one word. Okay, put it in the chat function. You can do it privately. I don't really care. Do it privately so you don't show everyone your answer. Okay. All right. Let's do it. Okay, one word. Put it in a private chat. Don't say it out loud. You won't anyways. You're not here. But yeah. One word. So scramble for Africa doesn't work because that's 3. All right, I'm gonna take attendance like I'm supposed to. Actually focus here. I have 11 responses. There's 24 people on here. You get one word, and you have to respond, or else you will not be counted as present today. So take a guess. It's just one word. It can't be that challenging. And there's no right or wrong answers, obviously. Well, let's say there's more correct and less correct. All right, got attendance done. Still missing 2 responses. Let's see what we got here. Manipulation, using, exploitation, greed, imperialism, exploitation, corruption, imperialism, excavate, greed, colonization, unfair, value, colonialism, unbalanced, pillage, capitalist, export, colonizers, unfair, supremacy. Pretty good. That's cool. I was personally thinking imperialism, but there was a lot of other creative answers there too. Good. I think you get the point though, that the continent of Africa has its resources taken from it, and it benefits the U.S. and the Europeans. Okay, good exercise. We're gonna move on to some, I don't know, a way for me to go over some information, but you have to like participate, because I feel like at this point in the semester, people stop listening to lectures and stories and stuff, and then what happens is I don't hear anything, or I don't hear like the facts and details relayed back to me in discussions. So then I get concerned about the listening thing. So this will give you a little more concrete information. So I'm gonna switch the share up here and go to this page that you've seen once or twice before. It's my homepage. Okay, click on modules, and you go to the bottom. I feel like I've said this so many times. Okay, here we go. We got some new stuff up here. So this 26.1 fill-in notes. I click on it, and what should pop up is this beautiful thing. So you want to download that, all right, and have it on your screen. So you're going to fill it out as we go through it, okay? Everyone got that? All right, so giving you a few seconds to do that now, please. And I'll find it on my screen somewhere. Yeah, there we go. All right, like I said, usually this is a game we play in class. That's pretty fun. It involves people trying to work with partners and get things done really quickly. But we're going to just do this together so nobody gets confused. All right, so talking today about Latin America in the 1800s. Can anybody tell me why the term Latin America is biased? Unmute and tell me why it's a biased term. Lucille Hiddle, that was a large bubble you just popped. Wow. Okay. Anybody want to unmute and tell me why that's a biased term?
Maybe
Latin
because
America. Go ahead, Nate.
maybe because it's saying like it came from countries from Europe, even though it had a history before that.
Yeah. They call it Latin America because it was the Spaniards and the Portuguese that came in and conquered it. And then it's like saying that the Spanish and the Portuguese came from the Romans, essentially. And its history's infatuation with the Romans. Does that make sense? So I always kind of get frustrated. My wife will be like, will say something about Latin X or Latin America. And I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. There's Central America, there's South America, there's not Latin America. But for some reason, it's become a term that is apparently okay to use, and they use it interchangeably here. So there you go. That's my opinion on the subject. Thanks for listening. Okay, let's look at how this whole thing went down. So let's go look at causes to go from a colony to an actual independent nation. A here, the blank began to question the governing of Spain and Portugal. Does anybody think they know what the appropriate answer might be for that? Brooke.
Creoles.
The Creoles. Yes. Brooke, now you have to tell us who the Creoles are.
They were American-born whites.
That is correct. So remember, they were second on the social ladder, only behind the Peninsulares, right? Good. Nate, big yawn. You all right? Good. Okay, so Creoles were educated. They were white. They had privilege. They had not their own country, so they're going to complain. The colonists resented new taxes and reforms. Shocking. We've heard that before. Sounds a little bit like the American Revolution. Yes. Okay. The thing to remember though is remember how Spain had a rule. How much did Spain tax South America and Central America? Does anyone remember the number? You got to go back to like the 1500s. Whoa. He's back, folks. I'm in class. Just started like 5 minutes ago. Well, maybe 12 minutes ago, but it seems like it was a short time. Sorry, I get interrupted. These students are engaged. They're not yawning. They're not blowing big gum bubbles. You should see this. I mean, look at it. I got maybe 4 cameras on. 4 more than I've seen all day.
God dang, look at that.
Yeah, you guys want to see Mr. Dickerson? He hasn't cut his hair in since quarantine started, and that's how much he has.
Yeah, well, Mr. Burnett doesn't take precautions.
He thinks I'm a super spreader because of my mask.
He's basically wearing a piece of toilet paper across his face.
All right, they can hear that.
Single ply.
It's not single ply toilet paper.
It's North Central toilet paper.
Yes, it might be. That's double ply.
No, it's not.
It's not the 5 ply that I buy at Costco.
2 rolls off at the same time.
All right, enough toilet talk. Get out of here. All right, sorry about that. Adults have to find something to entertain themselves sometimes too, I guess. Okay. Brooke is not humored, so we're gonna move on. Now, what is the rule? How much did the Spanish take? Griffin, more, help me out, bud. Come on, use your Google. No, nothing. Oh, we do have more videos on. I didn't realize that. Cool. It's the 1/5 rule. The 1/5 rule, 20%. So, of course, if you were a Creole and you were white and educated and you made a bunch of money, you did not want to give 20% over to the European colonies so they can fumble around your money fighting against Napoleon. Blah, blah. Exactly. So, let's go to C then. Blank caused Spain and Portugal to lose control over their colonies. I bet somebody knows this answer, if they read it all. Anybody want to unmute and use the hand raise functions? Nope, it's okay. The Napoleonic Wars. Okay, so this is where if you're on video, I'm seeing you type in Napoleonic Wars, or if you have a magic printer and you printed this out already, you're just writing it in. Do I need to write on the screen? You guys can follow along. Okay, and you're adding your own notes probably with my entertaining commentary. Good. All right. Oh, I'm recording this and I have to put it on YouTube, and he just came in here. That's awkward. Okay. Let's talk about early failures then. Early reform movements failed because the upper classes and the lower classes didn't get along. I wonder why that is. It's like, oh, you've been abusing me since we've been here, and you killed off the natives and you enslaved anyone of color. And yet now I'm going to ask you to help me out in this revolution. Do you guys think that would be very successful? Nope. So the Creoles failed to use who in this rebellion? Anyone want to unmute and take some guesses? I mean, anyone? No? Oh, okay, well, I'll give you this one. They failed to use Indians, mestizos, or mulattoes. Like I said, basically anyone else in the social ladder other than themselves. Okay, so that's why early independence movements didn't work, and that's why this is the situation in South America and Central America is tricky. All right, let's talk to external events that impacted change. I'm going to give you a strong hint. Put an asterisk by this. I was making your final exam. I'm pretty sure there's a question about this on your final exam. How's that for a hint? You like that one? Katya, you like that? It's good, isn't it? Yeah. All right, so blank, a model of how to break away from a mother country. What do you think goes in that blank? Lucy McJunkins. What goes there?
I think that,
It's straight out of the reading too, if you read. I don't know if you read.
yeah, well, I did read. I remember reading about it. I just forgot the word.
Katya, you have your hand up. You want to take a guess?
The American Revolution.
Exactly. Good job. All right, blank. The lower sections approved of it, but the Creoles thought it was too radical. Which revolution is that? Nate.
The French Revolution.
Good. The French Revolution. All right, Kaylee. Kaylee, you are up. Toussaint Louverture led the slave rebellion against France. Which revolution was that?
I don't know the revolution. I know that the first one, I knew the French. I don't know this one though.
Oh, yes, you do. It's an island in the Caribbean that's split into half. One country has the fastest growing economy in the world, and the other one is still an impoverished country that recently had a earthquake. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kaylee?
No.
It
Sorry.
starts with an H.
Oh, Haiti?
Oh, the Haitian Revolution. Good job. That's right. I know you knew that, Hannah Hiddle. You don't need to smirk. Come on. Okay. So that was a really, really important revolution in terms of for our half of the world, the Western Hemisphere, okay? Because that was the first time that you had basically a slave, okay, a freed slave rebel against a European government, all right? And so that is going to be used as a model for subsequent revolutions. And that was primarily based off the French Revolution. You can see a direct correlation there. Let's go to D, French control of Portugal and Spain. So confusion over whether or not blank had to follow Spanish opposition king's rule while blank controlled blank. So there was confusion over whether or not the Creoles had to follow the Spanish opposition king's rule while France and Napoleon controlled Spain. Does that make sense? So that was, I mean, at home, Spain was confused too. They didn't want to listen to Napoleon. And then their colonies had no clue what was really happening. And then remember, the British blockade of Europe during the Napoleonic Wars meant that it was difficult to communicate. All right, I think we're good. Let's go to the major independence movements then. Let's look at Mexico. All right, so Mexico gets started with, do you guys know this name? It's Creole's name. He was part of the Catholic Church. Hannah Hiddle, what is it?
Father Miguel de Hidalgo.
Father Hidalgo, yes. Used the lower classes, Indians and mestizos, to win some battles, but lost support of the other Creoles and it wasn't successful. Another Creole officer, Lily Dole.
Was it Simon Bolivar?
Not Simon Bolivar.
Huh.
He is the man. He's like a legend. This guy's a little less of a legend. It's a good guess, though. Anybody got it?
Isn't it Augustus de Iturbide?
Iturbide.
Mm-hmm.
Iturbide. Augustine de Iturbide. I will butcher Spanish names. I'm sorry about that. Iturbide, though, led an army who joined insurgents instead of defeating them and then took down Mexico City. You guys remember that Mexico City was one of the viceroyalties of the Spanish Empire. So that is a big blow to Spain. All right. The Central American states then, for a short amount of time, like less than 20 years, were briefly connected to Mexico. So Mexico was much larger. But then they ended up collapsing in 1838 and becoming their own independent state. So I think We're talking about like Guatemala, Costa Rica, Panama. Were all part of Mexico at one point, but not for very long because they wanted their own governments. All right, let's take a look at two here then. South America. In the north, Lily Dole. Who is this? Who won victories in Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador?
All right, now is that Simon Bolivar?
Simón Bolivar. Okay, you guys need to remember that name. I would highlight that one and underline it. Simón Bolivar. All right? If you don't know the backstory on Mr. Bolivar, he is one of the most influential people in the history of the world that no one really ever talks about on this half of the world. Okay, because if it weren't for him, you would probably not have had independence from the Spanish in South America. So he was, I forgot how many miles he rode, but lived like the most ridiculous life of just someone, just a general, a war hero. And I want to say he rode something like 10,000 miles on his horse in these battles because he had to fight the Spanish in Peru. So he liberated Peru. Bolivia obviously is named after him. Let's use common sense, right? Peru, Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador all basically can trace their history to him being their liberator. Now, what's weird is he didn't pull a George Washington. That's why you're like, oh, I've never heard of this guy. Because he left and went back to Europe pissed off at the world because of he said that the people in South America just couldn't get their act together. Like they were never going to be able to figure out how to have like a government like the United States. All right, I'll stop rambling. B, 3 nations combined then into blank until 1830. What was that called? Katya.
Grand Columbia.
Yeah, the Grand Columbia. Exactly. Place you've never heard of because it doesn't exist anymore. Bolivar resisted attempts to crown him king or emperor, preferring a blank form of government. Anyone know this one?
Republic.
Yep, a republican form of government, which if you remember right, a republic is where you elect representatives to represent you. All right, but people in South America had only lived underneath the rule of a king or a monarch, and so they didn't totally understand what democracy was and voting and all that type of stuff. All right, so that is northern South America. In southern South America, the independence movement was led by another pretty famous war hero. Anyone got his name? Hannah?
Jose de San Martin.
Jose de San Martin. Yes. So this guy is the liberator of Argentina and Chile, 2 very wealthy countries to this day. And so he actually met up with Bolivar in Peru to destroy the viceroyalty of at Lima, which is interesting. And then he went back down to Argentina, and by 1825, I'm at G. All of Spanish blank blank had won its independence. What's the correct answer?
South America.
South America, yes. And then each government or state that was formed was its own independent republic. Independent republic. All right. Let's look at Brazil then. 3. Okay, background. Brazil was a very lucrative colony for which country? Which country controlled Brazil? Hannah,
Portugal? Oh, shoot,
anyone?
sorry.
So mute. Hannah,
Wait, did you say Portugal? I thought it was Britain.
it's Portugal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Portugal. Brazil was a lucrative colony for Portugal. What treaty made by the Pope gave Brazil to Portugal? What was that treaty called? Anybody remember?
Was it
The Treaty of
Tordesillas?
Guadalupe Hidalgo? No,
I think Brooke got it. Brooke, what'd you say?
the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. I don't know.
Mm-mm.
No.
No, that's the treaty that United States used to take half of Mexico. We'll get into that later. This one's much older. Ethan, get in. Ethan, you there? Oh, chat. I'll look at that. Yeah, nice, Ethan. Treaty of Tordesillas. I think it was in 1494, if you remember right, when the Pope didn't want Spain and Portugal to go to war. So he said that the Portuguese could keep their claims on the continent of Africa and in Brazil. Good call. All right, so upper class Brazilians feared talks of independence because of the disruption of business and trade. So Brazil was much more reliant on cash crops than the colonies in northern South America or even Mexico. So big business. In 1807, blank invasion by France led the royal family to flee to Brazil. So who is the leader of this invasion by France? What do you think goes in that blank?
Napoleon.
Correct, Napoleon. So the Portuguese royal family flees to Brazil, where they're going to run the Portuguese Empire from Brazil, which is kind of weird, right? What that meant, though, is blank became the equal of Portugal. So D is Brazil became the equal of Portugal. In fact, probably more lucrative and larger than the actual country of Portugal. All right. When the royal family returned to Portugal in 1820, the king's son, blank, declared his country independent less than 2 years later. What's his name? Nate, you got it?
It was like Pedro the First or something.
Dom Pedro the First. Yeah. Dom, D-O-M, Pedro the First. So it basically was a bloodless coup d'etat. Have you heard of, you guys remember, to overthrow the government? So his dad went back to Portugal to be the king. He left his son there to administer the colony. And then he's influenced by rich businessmen. And basically they say, all right, let's just be our own country. Nate.
In the book, it said that before his dad left, he told him that if they were like that, he should, if he needed to, he could like cut ties with Portugal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was there was a small war, but it wasn't very big. And part of the reason behind that is, remember how much percent of Brazil was slaves still? And Brazil was one of the last countries to give slaves, like to basically, what's the word I'm looking for?
Abolish.
Abolish. Thank you. Wow. Yes, one of the last countries to abolish slavery. So there really was only a handful of people that were even involved in government affairs. And like I said, rich white businessmen controlled most of the resources. All right. Some resistance occurred. Portugal gave in. Brazil became a monarchy led by Dom Pedro I. In what year was that?
1822.
1822. Correct. Okay. Couple things that I probably should mention here real quick. All right. So these new governments that are created, notes, where are they? These new governments that are created were highly influenced by basically, do we have a strong federal government or do we have a strong central government? Do you guys know the difference between the two? Anybody, can anybody explain that? Does the United States have a stronger federal government or a stronger central government? Okay, so here's how this whole thing works. Okay. In the United States, states have their own rights. Okay, that's called federalism. All right. And I guess a basic definition of that is that, you know, our tax dollars, the government gives Indiana its tax dollars and then Indiana doles them out. And we have our own separate government, our own House of Representatives, our own state senators that make decisions for Indiana. Does that make, and we have a governor. Does that make sense? Okay, we even have, I mean, we're so federal that we even have like local governments and local school boards, you know, obviously. Okay. That model, though, isn't always popular amongst per se military leaders or people that want to have power. And so strong central governments traditionally in newer countries or countries that aren't as established tend to have, again, more of a centralized government where you tend to end up with a dictator or a military leader. All right. And so even to this day, Latin America struggles with this idea of having like strong central leaders versus giving different regions their own control. That's why the United States has been very, very active in South American politics and government and governing, and we've used military force many, many, many more times than we'll ever admit to, than you'll find in any kind of like on Wikipedia. You won't find it there because the United States is very active in making sure that they don't have dictators that are adversive to American economy or to American safety. Okay, especially when Fidel Castro took over in Cuba. That was just that's an example of, you know, a communist state that's anti-US, way too close to the United States for comfort for the US. So we'll get into this more on Wednesday and Thursday, but the US is kind of, once these countries became independent and the United States became stronger, by the late 1800s, they're going to have much more of a presence in Latin America, or I don't know, that's the first time I use that term in a while. South America, Central America. Okay. I mean, one of the classic examples would be the building of the Panama Canal, and the fact that we basically gave weapons and money to the Panamanian people so that they could have a revolution, become independent, so that we could then take their land to make a canal. Okay, and build it with our engineers, our government, our money, our military protecting it, but doing it on foreign soil, which is, I think that's called imperialism. Yeah. but we're not as bad as other countries, right? So it's okay. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. Here's what I have for you tonight. So stay on here and get over my cynicism. I'll stop doing that. Okay. Man, I got a bunch of messages. What is up with that? All right, so here we go. For tonight, go back to the modules and there we go. All right. You're gonna do some Tom Green and Tom Green. Nah, and Tom Green was a comedian in some very inappropriate movies. No, you're gonna do some John Green tonight. And this is the video right here on the top, and then on the bottom is just some fill-in notes that you're going to fill in as you watch the video. If you miss one or two, I'm not going to take points off. If you turn in nothing, I'm going to take points off. Literally, this is just I want you to watch this and pay attention type thing. Because it is complex. The relationships are complex in South America and Central America because of just because of the racial history that Spanish set up, and then also obviously because of American influence as well. So I had more visitors. You guys know Miss Lizer and Miss Casey. They also wanted to come over and say hi. I'm sure Mr. Dickerson put him up to it. So that is due, and I'm going to actually let you off a little bit early to get that done. Also, you have a quiz tomorrow over the reading. So I could obviously tell some of you did a nice job reading. I think there's probably a handful of you that this is foreign to you, the content. So you're welcome for the assist today. But I still would make sure I've perused the reading, okay? And then tomorrow, I'll have some reading questions for homework, discussion questions, and we'll look at more documents Wednesday and Thursday. Talk a little bit more about the second half of the 19th century, okay? All right, folks, be good and enjoy your evening, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. Thanks for your participation.
I had a question about well, I've already done the reading, but I haven't like written down like notes for every single page. I've gotten down all like the highlighted parts, but for this chapter, what should I really focus on? Even though I know I already read it and like I should and I wrote down like main points, but what else besides that do you think I should write down?
Just watch the video I just put on there.
I've already watched that.
That crash course?
Yeah.
When?
This weekend.
Then you're golden. You're Gucci.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, like if you've already just for fun.
Yeah, I like his crash course videos. I like how fast paced they are.
Yeah, that's gonna get you a really good score on the AP exam. So
Oh.
you can literally just watch those, and if you know how to write essays, you can pass the AP exam. So that's perfect. I'm really glad that you do that. And this chapter's I don't even think it's all they tell the truth a lot, to be honest. It was a lot harder. Like these independence movements were way dirtier than they make them appear, and because nobody really got along, and it's hard to have a revolution when nobody gets along. But at the same time, European countries had so much turmoil at home. You remember there was revolution of 1830, revolutions in 1848. You had the beginning of industrialism, all really at the same time. So again, there's so much going on in Europe that it was hard for them to control the will of the people across the globe. So yeah, there you go. Thanks for participating today. What else?
A lot of other students watch the crash course videos too. Like the reason why I was watching it was because I asked Lucy McJunkins how she did so well on the unit test. She's like, I just liked watching the crash course videos. I was like, okay, I'll go check those out.
Yeah, no, that's some solid advice. So
All right, bye. Thank you. See you
all
tomorrow.
right, let's see ya.